Welcome back to your morning pulse on politics. Sunrise on the Hill. Both chambers of Congress voted to release the Epstein files, and it was nearly unanimous, just one lawmaker voting no. The bill now heads to President Trump's desk, with the files expected to be released somewhat within 30 days or so. Joining us to talk more about the Epstein situation is Princeton's Dr. Lauren Wright. Dr. Wright, I just want to ask you, did you think we would be here, back in July when this discharge petition was first filed? And now we have this bill headed to the president's desk.
Well, I actually didn't think it would take quite this long, but what's unique about the Epstein situation is the demand for transparency has come perhaps equally or even more from some Republicans in the caucus than from Democrats. And so when you have sort of that bipartisan interest and something that's so newsworthy and the public follows so closely, you typically see a little bit more quick movement on it. But there was some, slowdown, obviously, from Republicans. Then add to that the normal delays in the congressional process. And here we are, as you said, Corey, months and months later.
This is a story that has really had the public's attention for quite some time, and a lot of people are emotionally invested in it. So to see the president and some people in the administration first before, letting them out, letting the files be released, and then backing off of it and really digging their heels, and then all of a sudden kind of caving to them, how should people think about that? What would you counsel to them?
Well, how they are thinking about it is, if there's nothing to hide, why can't we see it? But I would remind voters that just a short time ago during the election, it was Trump and his allies pushing for the files to be released. And then that calculation seemed to sort of have switched once they came into office. Pam Bondi's story about having the client list on her desk changed a little bit. And so I think the natural reaction of a lot of political observers is, well, why are you stonewalling? Let us see it. However, thousands of pages have already been released. I have no idea what's in these remaining documents. I don't know if it's sensitive information. I don't know if it's information law enforcement officials don't want the public to see. And so there's a very likely possibility that there's not some sort of smoking gun or not something that's completely unfamiliar in the information. With that said, the public's on the side of transparency when it comes to opinion on this issue, and that's understandable.
Do you think a lot of folks are sort of pointing out that this is one of the rare times where the president has no sway over his party writ large? Do you think there's more to that as he moves forward in his second term, or is this just such a politically untenable position to take to vote no against releasing these files, which is why so many in his conference ultimately went against him, though we should point out that he is now for releasing the files?
It's really both. The president is sort of a lame duck. He is in his very last term here, and he has limited institutional or political power. With that said, he's still pre-midterms, and so some of the threats he's making on a variety of policy issues, including to those in his own caucus, are with an eye toward the midterms and with the very loud voice and the very large stage that the presidency brings. And so, yes, sort of his sway is a little bit diluted compared to a first-term president, for instance. But that doesn't mean he can't cause real problems for a lot of these congressional reps.
Let's jump over to Saudi Arabia. There was lots of pomp and circumstance here in Washington yesterday as Mohammed bin Salman came.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, horses, music, flyovers. The president has been very interested in Saudi Arabia for a while. He would really like them to be a part of the Abraham Accords. He wants this big relationship. Saudi Arabia got a lot out of this. They got F-35s. They've got a nuclear deal, not for weapons, but for nuclear energy and other things. They're supposed to invest in the U.S., but the president didn't really get what he wanted here, particularly with regard to recognizing Israel and the Abraham Accords. How do you see all that?
Well, if the Saudi Arabians join the Abraham Accords, that would be quite significant for geopolitics, for Israel's safety, and for normalcy of relations in that region. With that said, what's always been so difficult about dealing with Saudi Arabia for American presidents is they really are, these relationships are adversarial by nature. They have a lot of human rights abuses. I don't even have to document them here because the information is so egregious and so public. However, Trump doesn't see things the way previous presidents have seen. He's willing to let even the most, you know, even the betrayals fall into the past. He's willing to let history be in the past. He's not thinking about the relationship in the long term. He's just thinking, what can I do here and now from a negotiating standpoint? And I hope something good does come out of that. But I also completely understand the critics who say, what about Khashoggi? What about 9/11? I mean, these are things that Americans do and should care about, and they don't want to see Saudi Arabia just given excuses for.
I wanted to ask just about the president overall. You mentioned he's a lame duck now. He will point to some of the victories that he's had, the closed border, DEI being no more, the 8 wars that he said that he has finished. But some are arguing that he's flailing now. Affordability is an issue. So he's talking about $2,000 checks for tariffs. Healthcare is going up in cost. So he's talking about throwing money at that problem. Then you got him calling reporters piggy, threatening ABC's FCC license. What do you make of how the president has been acting these sort of, last couple of weeks to a month?
That's President Trump. I mean, a lot of it is so strange and so controversial compared to the relationship with previous presidents and the national media, but it's exactly the way he behaved in his first term. And I think what people learned after the first term was if they get distracted on his rudeness or his strange ways vis-a-vis relations with the media, that can take away from some of the bigger policy debates. And that's the real question for Democrats. He has had some wins on enacting campaign promises. Not all presidents do that, and he deserves credit, but he is underwater on the economy in a very real way. And he believes those numbers because now he's going out on the road, trying to sell his economic message and trying to put benefits directly in the hands of Americans, which isn't a very conservative approach, but it is popular.
All right, Lauren Wright, thanks so much for being here. It's always good to have you.
Same, thanks.